Hello everyone and welcome back to our reading of Lands of Legend. Today's chapter, Nebuchadnezzar's City. Herodotus, who has been called the father of history, knew little about the history of Babylon and had not even heard of King Nebuchadnezzar, who reigned from 605 to 562 BC and turned it into one of the most spectacular cities in the world. After his death, his empire began to break up, and Babylon, its capital city, went into decline. By the time Herodotus arrived in Babylon, many of its citizens had abandoned their homes, leaving their city to be plundered by passing armies and ruined by the weather. Babylon was forgotten for the next 2,000 years. In 1899, German archaeologists led by Robert Cordray began to dig up the dead city. Their excavations continued for the next 19 years. Great care had to be taken because the buildings had been made out of sun-dried bricks, which crumbled easily. Gradually, the remains of this once great city took shape. Herodotus had been wrong about its size. It was surrounded by only 18 kilometers of walls. But he had been right about the tower. In the center of the city, surrounded by high walls, were its foundations. For years, archaeologists had been searching for this Tower of Babel, mentioned in the Bible. Some had looked for it in Baghdad, others in Beers Nimrud, both in Iraq. Now, here it was, just as Herodotus and the stories about Babylon had said. From the thousands of documents discovered during the excavations, the German archaeologists were able to piece together Babylon's long history. They found out that the tower had been built hundreds of years before Nebuchadnezzar's reign, but had fallen into disrepair. Soon after he became king, Nebuchadnezzar ordered it to be rebuilt to a height of 90 meters. But what was it used for? This still remains a mystery. According to Herodotus, the room at the top was used for religious ceremonies. Another historian, Diodorus of Sicily, said it was an observatory from which astrologers mapped the stars, studied the movements of the planets, and tried to predict eclipses of the sun and moon. Someone else has suggested that the Babylonians looked upon the tower as a gateway to the heavens, and as a resting place for gods and goddesses on their way from their heavenly homes to their homes on earth. And what about the Hanging Gardens, mentioned frequently in the stories about Babylon? Diodorus of Sicily, for example, said they were one of the 7 wonders of the world, although archaeologists have not been able to discover exactly where they were located. They have found a row of high arches that could have supported terraces filled with plants. According to the stories, leads were sprayed by water pumping machines connected to the Euphrates River. Many questions about Babylon remain unanswered, and archaeologists are still searching for solutions to the riddles raised by the stories of the past. Well now, isn't that very fascinating? Wish I could give some comments on it, but I don't have much to say about Babylon. Now, next week, we're staying here in Afro-Eurasia, but we're leaving the mainland. Where are we going? Well, how do I put this? Did you ever hear the story about the boy who pulled a sword from a stone? I'll see you then.